Okay, so good evening, Chairman Williams, Vice Chairman Mrs. Kiefer, Superintendent Dr. Newman. The first thing I want to do tonight is, the establishment of every budget is a very challenging and at times very complex process. For example, tonight is the 12th meeting with the school board where the FY20 budget is discussed. This doesn't count the meetings with the Finance Committee, the meetings with this joint City Council and School Board, Finance committees, meetings with the school principals and department heads, and with the executive team and the superintendent. I know this sounds like a lot, but these meetings are essential to understanding the true needs of the school division and being transparent about our funding sources. So tonight, I'd like to thank you, the school board, for all of your efforts working on this budget, discussing issues with your constituents, lobbying for the school division at Richmond, and with our city partners at City Council. Even though we were not successful in acquiring enough funding to meet the true needs of the school division, we were able to show those needs and to gain an understanding so that when we go forward to future budgets, we can plan on how we get there and where we want the schools to be in the coming years. I want to thank City Council and the Mayor for their efforts as well. They too spent many hours of time understanding the school budget and our true needs. I believe we have established a good partnership as a foundation for future budgets. Finally, I want to thank the staff for their dedication and service during this process, especially Ms. Miller, who keeps me on the straight and narrow and keeps us all organized. God bless her. I don't know what I'd do without her. So the next item, the next slide we've all seen before. We talk about where we came from. We started off with approximately $110 million worth of requests from all of the schools and the departments. Superintendent and the executive team met, and we came down to what we thought were our true needs, $108,295,000. And then we started looking at our funding sources and trying to determine how much money we were actually going to have, and so we prioritized those needs. We got down to the governor's budget, which was $104,363,000. With what we were going to get from the city and the governor's proposed budget, our number at that time was $104,363,000. After the General Assembly met and adopted their budget, school division lost another $283,000, primarily due to the fact that while the General Assembly and the governor and everyone talk about how much they're going to give additional 5% increases to teachers, they started their contract period for teachers on September the 1st, not July the 1st, like every school division in the state of Virginia does. So when we talk about, later on in the presentation, I'll show a slide that says that we had to fund unfunded mandates from the state, and that's exactly what that is. Our fiscal year is July the 1st, it's not September the 1st. Our teachers' contracts begin at the beginning of the fiscal year, not at some arbitrary date established by the General Assembly. So you can tell I'm a little frustrated with the General Assembly, so I'll go on to the next slide. So what's in the budget? Compensation increase for all employees on their respective scales, which exceeds the governor's proposal. The governor's proposal was for a 5% increase over the biennium, over a 2-year period of time. Last year, the school board made teacher salaries one of their primary objectives last year, to get this teachers' scales back into the marketplace, to make us competitive, because we understand that the biggest asset, the best thing that we have in every classroom is a well-compensated, skilled teacher. And we can't have those skilled teachers if we're not in the marketplace. So we made a big step last year by bringing our scales into the marketplace. This year we increased those teacher salaries again, one step on their scale, which on average was about 3%. So overall, for the biennium, teacher salaries increased 11.6% on average. The next one was contribution to the enhancement of the Dean School to extend the productive life until 2026. I think throughout all of our meetings, this has been one of our primary obstacles that we were trying to decide, when are we going to build a new Dean? What are we going to do with the Dean School? Right now, and we'll show it further in when we get to the CIP, but right now it doesn't appear to be financially possible for the school board to build Dean in 2021, as was presented in the superintendent's budget. So what we've done is, what we're proposing is that we push Dean out to 2026, but we need to be able to make sure Dean has meets all of our students' instructional needs until that time. So we've placed $1.5 million into the CIP for the enhancement of Dean. We're beginning this summer and finishing hopefully the following summer, but we'll continue to be monitoring Dean to try to extend its useful life, to improve the instructional environment for our students, to make Dean last until 2026. At that time, we're hopeful that we'll be able to identify appropriate funding to be able to replace the Dean School. One of the things, the next item was one of the things that was discussed and brought forward by some of our employees and members of our community were the adding of an increased school board contribution for part-time employee health insurance, increase the contribution for their health insurance. That's been included in this budget. We've also, as we do every year, created and added additional positions and staffing changes to meet the evolving needs of our students. You've heard me discuss a little bit before about the unfunded state mandates. We had to cover all of those, regardless of whether we received appropriate funding from the state. We've enhanced our classroom and instructional technology. I think this year, all of our school grades will be on one-to-one, and we are enhancing the projectors, whiteboards throughout the school division. And of course, we always have to deal with the inflationary impacts for all of our goods and services that are purchased for our students. What's not in the budget is a cost of living adjustment. And, you know, this is a very important thing that's going to come back, that the school division will have to deal with it sometime in the coming years. I said earlier that the school division went back last year and brought our teacher salary scales back into the market. By not keeping up with the market, by not keeping up with the inflationary trends in our economy, our salary scales are going to fall out of the market again, and that this will be an issue that we'll have to deal with in future budgets. Identified funding for the new Dean School project, projected debt. I'll just discuss that a little bit. We need to find an appropriate funding stream to build a new Dean School. I think it's agreement by everyone on the school board, city council, and in the community that school needs to be replaced. We just need to come together and determine how we're going to pay for it. Gifted and talented program enhancement has been a budget request for several years, and it's still a goal of ours. We need additional English language learners teachers, ESOL teachers, or ELL teachers. We need to change our computer labs from having assistants in them to having computer lab teachers. We have numerous technology software requests from our teachers that have not been funded. And I think a common goal throughout the school board and administrative staff is one day we would hope to go back to having a 4-tier bus system instead of the 5-tier bus system that we have now, so that our students can get home in the afternoon. They not go to school when it's dark, and they don't arrive home in the afternoon when it's dark as well. So that's a brief recap or summary of what's in the budget and what's not. I know it's hard to see this Alba, can you make it bigger? But this is the CIP. We'll discuss it more when we get to that section on the agenda. But main things that we have in there is where we are continuing to keep our bus fleet up to date and within DOE, Virginia Department of Education guidelines. We continue to have our technology infrastructure maintained and updated every year. Also in this budget, we added additional funds, approximately $700,000 for additional classroom trailers should they be needed due to growth and due to the postponement of the Dean School. In the FY19 portion, you'll see $1.5 million. That's that $1.5 million that I mentioned as far as enhancement for the Dean School. And we have met with the principals and with the maintenance and facility staff this past week, outlining areas of concern, areas of where we think those improvements should be. We've also have in here approximately $2.2 million for replacement of the HVAC system at Round, and the following year, replacement of the roof at Mayfield. Those two projects will not, the Round School, as far as HVAC, will not be done this summer due to the shortened summer that we have due to the calendar change. We don't believe that we can take out the HVAC system and put a new one in and be ready to go by when the teachers start back around August the 1st. So those two projects will be done the following summer. So, Albert, can you click to the next one? I don't know why I can't do it. No, back to the PowerPoint. So this is a detailed breakdown of what our revenue, all of our revenue, where we were receiving it from and where the funds are being distributed. So all of our total funds is approximately $121 million. Out of that, off the top of that is $3 million for our capital improvement plan, and then a little over $6.2 million for debt service. Out of the remaining $111,793,000, our food service fund, almost $4 million comes out of that for operation of all of our food service programs, breakfast and lunch throughout the division every day, and the federal grant program, approximately almost $3.8 million. The remainder of $104,080,000 is the main school operating fund that's used to fund everything from teacher salaries to materials and supplies to everything that runs throughout the school division. So how is this money? This is a way of looking at how the money is broken down. You can see a little over 79% is directly budgeted towards school-based cost. But I always want to remind you that everything on that sheet supports the schools. Information and technology had over $4 million. Student achievement, over $5 million. Transportation, a little over $4 million. All of these funds go back to support instruction and in the school, in all the schools. Another way of looking at it is that we have about 83%, a little over 83% of our budget is salaries and benefits, and the remainder, 16.8% of our budget is everything else. So we have a vast majority of our money is spent on teachers' salaries and benefits. We're a people-driven organization. This is no different than any other school division across the Commonwealth. We're not an outlier in this. Every school division looks like this. So where we are now, we've been through a lot of meetings, as you can tell, like I've mentioned before. Our next meeting, though, is April the 3rd to present the budget to City Council in the Public Works Conference Room at 5:30 on April the 3rd. Are there any questions, concerns regarding the budget?
May I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the school board of the city of Manassas adopt the FY20 school budget, it's in here somewhere, in the amount of, there we go, $121,244,877, and authorize the school board chair to transmit these estimates to the City Council of Manassas in accordance with the school board policy and the Virginia State Code.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Albrecht, second by Mr. DeMaria, that the school board of the city of Manassas authorize the FY 2019-2020 budget as presented in the amount of $121,244,877, and authorize the school board chairman to transmit these estimates to the City Council of Manassas in accordance with school board policy and Virginia State Code. Is there any discussion?
Sir.
Mr. No.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins, and your entire staff, and all of our staff, and we say it all the time, but we truly do appreciate all the efforts that you and your staff and the staff at all of our schools and at central office put in, and everybody works on the budget. So we really appreciate that. You were, something you said you were correct on, you probably shouldn't rail on the state. That's what, we're here for. We've always got your back, and I'll discuss that now. I've always tried to be honest. I've always tried to be truthful, transparent. I don't like anybody, especially politicians, who give the wrong impression purposely. The 5% for our teachers that the state is so lovingly giving us needs to be addressed. People need to know that that 5% is for standard of quality teachers, standard of quality positions. Our standard of quality teachers couldn't teach our 7,700 kids by themselves under no circumstances. It doesn't come close to covering the cost of our staff. I do appreciate the 5% of standard of quality teachers they're giving us. It needs to be known that that is what they are allocating to us, not covering all of our staff. That's one of their, I think it's a lie when they say those sort of things and take credit for doing that. They're not doing that. And then to play games with that stuff and not start it until September 1st and not make it public, to take credit for giving 5% to our teachers and they're not coming close to that is, I guess it's not criminal, but it's pretty darn immoral. And I'm so thankful that the board that I'm elected to doesn't do anything like that. Not a member of this board does anything like that. We are transparent and we are truthful. And every other level I've seen, manipulate numbers, manipulate words to make themselves look good. We've got people talking about we're getting 100% more than any other department in the city. It's not true. It's not true. We're doing this on a shoestring. Our staff is taking a beating. We've done a heck of a job getting them up to equality with the surrounding district, not all the districts, just the surrounding district, up until this year. And now, once again, we don't have the funds enough to give cost of living adjustments. I understand that money is tight everywhere, and I can live with that, and we can figure that out. What I can't understand is how our elected politicians can't be truthful and honest off of this board. I guess once you leave this board, it's different. But I'm very proud to be sitting up here, and I'm proud that this is the position I've run for and that I only ever plan to run for, because of the quality of people on this board. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Seberg? Mr. Albright?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hawkins started with, and as we talk tonight, I want to reinforce the point that this board had 12 nights worth of dialogue. Mr. Hawkins called them meetings. Meetings sometimes can be boring and unproductive. We had honest, open debate and discussion. And that was necessary because, as Mr. Hawkins showed, the budget we are approving, the state constitution says a needs-based budget. Well, if it was a needs-based budget, we'd have $4 million more worth of revenue and spending. So we're finessing words because of the inability at the federal, state, every level of government to properly fund public education. And we're making tough choices. The delay of Dean is the most significant. And I personally fear it's going to be another Baldwin as it festers. But the single biggest piece is that delay will cost the taxpayers about $25 million because the cost of construction will disproportionately escalate while we sit there and wait and spend money to make something keep on lasting. It will work, but it is not the wisest investment decision a government could make. But it's the only choice we have given the options we have. We're also not putting money in the things that should be the most important things we have, and that's the future. And we are not supporting two populations in what we just said. Gifted and talented, the best and brightest, and why do we want to attract them? And we're not enhancing a program that many of those parents want. And we have some of the most challenged populations in the Commonwealth, and we're not addressing the increase of needs with the ELL there as well. And finally, the mobile learning cottage trailers came back up again, and they're back in the CIP, and while none of us like it, and we'll all be talking about where they're going to go, and I've said it, and I'll say it again, if it's 5th and 6th grade students, and by the way, that's 1/6 of the school system, K-12, if you think about it, there's no place to put those but at Baldwin Intermediate School in Old Town. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Williams?
No.
Ms. Keeper? No. So I'll be brief. One, I want to again thank the staff for their hard work, all the staff here. They put in countless hours, and some might think, well, that's their job. No, they have to go above and beyond their job to make things work. So I appreciate your time and your efforts, all of you. Thank you for what you do. I feel a mixture of happiness and disappointment. Happy because we were at least able to make the numbers work and do our legal duty, but disappointed because we don't have the funding, as was enumerated by Mr. DeMary and Mr. Albrecht, to do what we need to do. And as I've told a couple of folks who've asked me about it, we're not a taxing body. We can't make it rain. We can't make money. We have to basically take what we've given and make it work. So hopefully going forward, citizens, politicians and other folks will see the money that we have, see what we need, especially the need to build a new dean and help us do that. So I'm sad that we're not providing the level of service that we could provide, but I am happy with the fact that we are doing our very best with what we have, and I'm proud of the folks on this board who worked hard on this, again, on the staff and the city council members who've helped us try to do the best we can. But if folks really care about education, they'll really have to go out and talk to their congressmen, talk to their neighbors, and make a difference. I mean, people say, where your heart is, your treasure is also. And if our treasure is truly our children, then we're going to need to work to make the best life for them. And right now with this budget, we're doing the best we can with what we have, but we could be doing so much better as a society. So with that, I will go back to the motion by Mr. Albrecht that the school board of the city of Manassas approve the FY 2019-2020 budget as presented in the amount of $121,244,877 and authorize the school board chairman to transmit these estimates to the City Council of Manassas in accordance with school board policy and Virginia State Code. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, 6-0. It is approved.